Hi, and welcome back to Save Me from AP Biology. Today we're going to focus on probably the most important thing that you need to be able to pass the AP Biology test, and that is study skills. The study skills that you've used in your non-AP courses really aren't going to work for a course that is as intense as AP Biology. So here are some examples of how you might be feeling sitting in an AP biology class at the beginning of the year. You've just been given this big textbook and study guide, and it seems like your teacher is speaking a foreign language. A lot of people experience this because they take AP biology as their first AP class. They may take it as a freshman, or they may have had other AP classes before, but they aren't science classes. And science is a whole different ballgame. You not only have to learn the material in science, but you have to be able to use what you know to design an experiment. It may seem like your teacher in AP biology is speaking an entirely different language, and that don't feel bad about that because biology really, or science in general, really is a totally foreign language. We have an entirely different vocabulary that we use compared to other disciplines, and it can be really hard to kind of jump in not knowing a lot of those words and try to figure out what your teacher is saying. So a lot of AP Bio kids come in and feel like they're studying, but they keep failing the test and quiz. And I'm going to tell you why that is and how to fix that. What we need to work on in every class, but particularly in a class like AP Bio, is study skills. I'm going to teach you today how to work smarter and not harder. I've had so many AP Bio kids who put hours and hours and hours into studying. I've had kids who color code their notes or try to copy word for word every word out of the book. These kids aren't any more successful than regular kids who just have good study skills. So let's talk about what my top study skills that I think you need for AP Bio are. These are tested study skills that I've used with my classes. Particularly, I've taught a lot of freshmen, and it really works to kind of get you adjusted to AP classes. You can carry these skills with you into other AP classes and into college, and they're going to be very useful. You're going to be really excited about number one, so I'm starting with it. You were probably given a big, thick textbook and a big, thick study guide. Either that or you're excited to buy the big, thick study guide from the bookstore or somewhere. Don't open the study guide until March. Promise me. So the point of the study guide is to review everything that you've learned all year, right? It's not really sort of a dummy's guide. It's not supposed to be read along with the textbook. It's supposed to be read at the end of the year when you have finished studying, learning everything, and now you're ready to just review. And it's really good for that. But it really won't work for you if you read it before then because you kind of already know what's in it. You've already taken all the tests. So then when you take the practice test, you won't know if you've just memorized it from studying it before or if you actually know the material. So my first study skill, don't open the study guide until March. Do open your textbook though. That's going to be very useful to you. Leave the study guide closed and on your bookshelf. You will need it, but not until March. For study skill number 2, I'm going to teach you how to read the book, or any textbook, actually. There have been textbooks that I memorized. I remember sitting in organic chemistry in undergrad, memorizing the entire book, trying to get an A. I did get my A, but I didn't have to memorize the entire textbook. I just didn't have the skills yet. So here's what you're going to do. Here's your strategy for reading the book before you have the lecture. So let's say we're learning chapter 4, which is the cell. Before you have your lecture on the cell, the night before, not a long time before, you're going to skim the book, meaning you're going to read it casually right as you're falling asleep at night. That's fine. So you're going to open your book and you're going to read it. You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to feel any stress at this point. Read it like you're reading it for fun and just see what sinks. Then during the lecture the next day with your teacher, while your teacher is talking, you're going to kind of remember what you read consciously or subconsciously, at least a little bit of it, right? While your teacher's lecturing, you're going to take notes on the teacher's lecture. After the teacher lectures, you're going to go home that night and you're going to really read the chapter again. You're going to dig deep into chapter 4. Now, when you're looking at these chapters, don't forget the figures. That is a big mistake that students often make. Most of the information in science is contained in figures. We think in pictures for the most part. So the figures are really going to be where the meat of your chapter is. If you just read the words, reading just the words is fine for the skim part, but now that we're really reading it, we want to focus on the figures. And I want you to take notes. I'm going to tell you how to take notes in a second. And then after you take your notes, let's never open the book again, right? Agreed? If we have good notes from our reading and good notes from our lecture, why would we ever open the book again? We're going to review, but we're going to review our notes. So imagine how important it is to have good notes because we never want to open that book again. We've already read it twice, right? So that brings me to study skill number 3, which is zoom in. So let me talk about that. You're going to have your class notes from your teacher, and you're going to have your notes from your book. And while you're reading the book, I don't want you to write everything that's in the book. That defeats the purpose, right? Like I said, focus on the figures and try to just take as few notes as you can. I know it's hard. So let's say we're doing chapter 1. We're going to take the notes from the book and our class notes. And as we review those, so after we've already taken those notes, as many notes as you want, but try to go easy on the notes. Take as many notes as you want here, put them in your notebook. So as it's taught, you're going to do that. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4. Units are usually 4 chapters long. You'll have all these notes from the book and all these notes from your class. At the end of the unit, about 1 week before the unit test, I want you to take the book notes and class notes for Chapter 1 and consolidate them into one page. So we're going to rewrite another page of notes, but this time we're limiting ourselves to 1 page front and back of notes. Notes aren't just writing. Notes are pictures. Like I said, scientists, especially biologists, think in pictures. So when you're drawing your notes, draw pictures in your notes. Don't just write down the words. And try to make it 1 page. So we're going to do that for each chapter, 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the unit. And a week before the test, about, chapter 4 might not have been taught yet at that point, so give yourself a little wiggle room. But about 1 week before the test, we're going to make each chapter a 1-page review sheet. And then we're never going to look at our chapter notes again. See how it's zooming in? So we started out with this big textbook and this big lecture that were really overwhelming, and we took some notes on them. And then we took the notes and we took notes on the notes. If it's something you already know, if I really already know that water is polar, why do I need to write that down? I don't, right? You need to only be writing down things that you think you're going to forget or complicated pathways or something at this point. So now we're going to have only 4 pages to study, and it's a week before the test. We're going to start studying these, and we're going to memorize these 4 pages of notes completely. Everything that deserves to be on this front and back page of notes, you need to memorize. Now, all of that is going to be memorized, and then the night before the test, you're going to make a page of only the hard concepts from those 4 pages. So we're never looking at these notes again. We're not reading the book a week before the test. What we're doing a week before the test is making these 4 pages of notes a day before the test. We've memorized these 4 pages, and we make only 1 page of the most difficult concept, 1 page front and back. This page you're going to keep until the AP test. And you're also going to kind of obsess over studying it until right before the test. I usually walk in with that page out and then put it in my backpack right before I take a test. This is a very useful skill for memorizing the insane amounts of information that you have to know in a college level science class. All right, so now we're sitting there. We've memorized literally everything using the zoom in approach. We're going to apply our skills to taking the test. Now, a lot of times the test question isn't going to be exactly what you studied. In fact, in science, it's usually not. It's usually going to be design an experiment or interpret someone's results or something like that. So you might read the question and think to yourself, I don't know anything in this question. But you do. Why? Because you've memorized the textbook basically using the zoom in method in step 3. So what do? How do I apply my skills to the question? Well, it does take a little bit of practice, but here's a good rule of thumb to really get your anxiety down and get you thinking about the question so that you can then apply the things that you know. So you're going to get the test, skim the question, give yourself 5 seconds to panic. You're not going to panic on every question, and that's fine. That's great, actually. But you are going to panic on some, especially the FRQs. Skim the question, panic for 5 seconds, put a little star by that question, and move on. Don't think about it again. That's a question that I need to not think about. I even sometimes during the test will count up the stars and imagine if I got every single question wrong, what would my grade be? Because sometimes it's only like an 85, and at that point I'm like, okay, well, if I get every question I don't know wrong, it's not that bad of a score. And sometimes I think to myself, okay, I really need to get 5 of these right or whatever. So put a star by the question you don't know and move on to the rest of the questions you do know. This is going to build your confidence during the test. You're also going to be practicing answering questions. When you take any test, you really kind of have to get in the head of the person who wrote the test. After you answer a few of their questions that they wrote, you kind of start to learn how they think. And especially if you've had a professor writing these instead of, or a teacher writing these instead of giving you just a regular standard AP Bio test, then you're going to know how they think by the end of the course and you're going to do much better on their tests. All right, so after we've labeled the questions we don't know, we're going to return later when we're done with the rest of the test, and we're going to, in the margin of the test or on some scratch paper or whatever, write down everything we know about that topic. So, okay, I don't know what this question is, but I know it's about cellular respiration. Do I remember the steps of cellular respiration? Do I remember the enzymes involved? Do I remember where they take place? I do. I remember all of that. Let me just write it down. And then I'm going to try to apply what I wrote down to the question. Usually this helps you figure it out. And I want you to kind of feel better knowing that AP, at least AP Bio, uses a positive point system, meaning if you get 5 things right in a question and 1 thing wrong, they don't look at the wrong thing. They only look at the right answers. So when in doubt, just write down everything you know and, I don't know, see what happens. You might be given some partial points. All right, I hope that these study skills have helped you to prepare for AP Bio.